today this topic actually almost got me. My friend Keem had to bring me to earth when he actually talked with some sense in the group chat. And I was like, man, you know what? He right, but I don't like it still. But so IGN put out a top 10 list for their top 10 fighting games of all time. Now, many people have felt different things about this. I was one of them. I can admit, like I already just did. But so the rules that they had for this was one, you couldn't use the same game from you couldn't use a different game from the same franchise, and also they weren't going to use platformers, so no Smash. For all y'all Smashers out there, even though Multiverses got 10 million already, it ain't gonna count. So, but yeah, so I can read off the games that they had on here if I can remember what my Twitter looks like. All right, so one, they had Super Street Fighter. They had Street Fighter Third Strike. They had 2 was Guilty Gear Strive. 3 was Tekken 7. 4 was Dragon Ball Fighters. 5 was the King of Fighters 13. 6 was UMVC 3. Ultimate Marvel. Let me say it all out. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Other people might not be like, what is UMVC 3? 7 was Killer Instinct on the Xbox One. 8 is Virtual Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. 9 is Skullgirls, and 10 is Mortal Kombat 9 or Mortal Kombat that was released in 2011. So that list came out, and definitely everybody had an opinion. Real quick. Go ahead with your question.
Why did they put Killer Instinct Xbox One instead of Killer Instinct the year it came out? You know what I mean?
Weird.
I'm just
didn't do Mortal Kombat the same way.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to me. But anyway.
But yeah, so everybody has their different. We gonna let the voice of reason and help calm everything down today go first. Because we don't know what me and E's gonna do, but we know Keem he's more level headed on this. So go ahead, Keem.
When I saw the list, when I first saw it, I was like, this feels like a fighting game list more about legacy and impact than necessarily like the biggest ones. And some of it has some recency bias on this too, because like when I saw the list, I was like, okay, number 1 being Third Strike. That's an FGC mecca. Like that's a game that people talk about for decades. Ironically, because when it came out, it was not as popular as it was later. When it first came out, people had complaints about it. This is almost true for almost every fighting game, by the way. There's people who hated Street Fighter 4 when it came out. They love it now. A few years from now, might be some fivers out there who like, I always like 5. Y'all were lying back in the day. So, so that's just for conjecture. But like Guilty Gear Strive was number 2.
Yeah.
That was the only one on this list that made me like, that's weird. That feels very recent bias. The only logic I could come up with it with like logic off my top of my head was like, okay, this is probably as far as like sales wise, the biggest Guilty Gear sales wise, and it felt like it had the most hype behind it. In that regard, I can respect that because Guilty Gear's been around a long time, but it's like basically been the king of the niche fighters. But as the popularity of Arxis is going up, so has Guilty Gear and all their IPs. Other games on the list, like Dragon Ball Z Fighters, of course, it was on the list. It was a big deal for a few years. People really liked it. Dragon Ball Z is a major IP. MK 2011. I'm an MK 2011 guy. That's the game that got me back in the fighting game. Like I played it every day for 8 months straight, every single day, 7 days a week. So that's on my top 10 list. So good on you, IGN, for that one. I can understand some people aren't into Mortal Kombat, might not be on their list. Skullgirls, I thought about that one. I talked this about Trail with this one. I was like, I kind of understand Skullgirls because it's like the most grassrootsy of all these fighting games on this list, where it had like small community, indie developer, but it was able to not only stay the course of popularity and still getting content to this game, still getting new characters. Was able to come back 6-7 years later and get a season pass. There's not a lot of fighting games that have had that longevity in its history and still getting support. And it's still here. So I kind of can understand just from its legacy alone why it would be on a top 10 list. King of Fighters 2013. Many people think that's one of the better King of Fighters that came out in the last few years. I'm not a King of Fighters guy. I know the online that game was not great. I did play the game. I know online was not great. A lot of people like 13. There are some other ones that could have been there, maybe like a 99 or a 98. Personal preference. Maybe even 15. I played a little bit of 15. I haven't played a lot of it. So I'll leave King of Fighters alone, so I won't get killed. Killer Instinct be on the list. Hey, I'm not trying to get killed. Killer Instinct be on the list. That's pretty cool. Because I felt like that really, like, when it was in its prime and heyday, people really like Killer Instinct. It had a great dead code. It was a revitalization of an old IP that was very beloved. It had a very large roster, got a lot of support, and basically was like the only Xbox exclusive fighting game, period. So like that's a big deal for that in that regard. So I get that respect. The only really questionable on there, I mean, MVC of 3, of course, UMVC 3 got to be on the list. It should probably be higher. You could swap Strive and UMVC 3, and a lot of people probably be happier if you swap those two on the list. I promise they probably would be. The only questionable, like, I was like, man, Strive, that just came out. Like, that feels weird. I don't know. That feels a little weird. Different logic. But how I see the list is like, okay, I see impact and legacy for different games over the course of years. Maybe not the quality of the fighting game, maybe not the quality of the community, but just the impact it had at certain moments. I wish Soul Calibur had been on this list as well. That would have made a lot more sense to me, but that fit on the list. Of course, like I said, recency bias. Fighting games now, some of them are selling better than fighting games from yesteryear. So that could kind of impact if people looking at sales numbers and popularity. FGC is also larger. More people are playing these games. Yeah. That could also be a factor in that as well. So I think that's a part of it. More people playing these newer games, larger audience, more money, larger prize pools, bigger competitive communities. Totally get it. But yeah, that's how I see it. I think it's an okay list. There's some things I would shift around. There's some things I would add. Maybe some stuff might get bumped off. Not MK. I don't care what nobody say. Put MK on there. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
You know, like,
I'm sorry, MC, man. I'm sorry. Where is Soul Calibur 2 on this list? where is it? Where is Capcom versus SNK 2 on this list?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm like. Yeah, exactly.
Where is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is Guilty Gear on this list?
Whoa. Hold on.
Not Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear Strive. Like, it just came out. Like Keem said, it just came out.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to make my voice high pitched. It just came out.
That way. You know, I agree. Like, the whole thing with Guilty Gear Strive, like, I'm gonna be 100%, man. He said one of the best fighting games of all time, top 10 best fighting games. Guilty Gear Strive isn't even the best Guilty Gear game. How could it possibly be one of, like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, it's not even the best Guilty Gear game.
Talk to him,
DeMarco.
Talk to him.
Bang.
Come on,
Talk
man.
to him.
I was saying, like, does anybody remember back when, like, Accent Core plus R was a thing? Holy moly, man! Like, stuff got crazy in that game. I'm just saying, like, that game was. It had all of our old favorite characters. I know, like, the new game has like Nagoriyuki and Giovanna, you know, and Cappy Chaos. I understand that, but man, there were like the Guilty Gear games that came before this game were, in my opinion, a lot better. Like, they were just, so first off, Guilty Gear Strive doesn't even belong on that list. Let's just take that off altogether, replace it with, like, I don't know, Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2, right? Like, put it with Rev 2, right? Like, Rev 2 is pretty good. I think it's better than Guilty Gear Strive, so we'll take that off, put it on, put Rev 2 on there, you know. King of Fighters 13, nope. Probably just take that off and replace it with Capcom versus SNK 2. I mean, I feel like if we're going to have a game with with the King of Fighters characters in it, SNK characters in it, I mean, you might as well just go for one of the best ones, which is Capcom versus SNK 2. Like, that one was great. And if it has to be a King of Fighters game, I would say go with what Keem said earlier, put in King of Fighters 15, because that game is really good. Like, it's really good. Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. I got mixed feelings about that.
Oh,
because
that one was on here for this. I was Mr. Gamer left with it.
I got Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown is in fact a pretty good game. It is a good game. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know if it belongs on this list. I don't know. And like, I didn't really play Virtual. I mean, if I had to like replace it with anything else, if I had to throw Virtua Fighter under the bus at this exact second, I would probably say put Soul Calibur 2 or 3 on there. Like instead, I like Virtua Fighter 5 a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's great, but I don't feel like, if we're going by influence, I don't know if it has the amount of influence that other fighting games have had throughout the years. I just don't think so. I just don't feel it, man. And even when Ultimate Showdown came out, when they said, "Yo, Virtua Fighter 5 is back. We got it here. It's free on PlayStation for like the next month." And then people kind of forgot that it was like, it existed like a couple weeks later. I played it too. I love Lion. I think he's a great character. I think Leon, whatever we call it. I think that I like Leon, Jeffrey McGuire. I love playing that character.
He's cool.
But I don't know. I would probably say like a Soul Calibur game. Skullgirls, I think like that definitely deserves a spot just because of all like the long storied history of Skullgirls. And to be honest,
man, he fought for that. They community fought for that game.
Yeah,
they really did.
To be honest, I actually really like that game. I think Squiggly is one of my favorite fighting game characters in any game. Like Squiggly, like I love that character. She's amazing, man, amazing character. Mortal Kombat. I mean, like I'm biased, so I would say that I would probably put Mortal Kombat 10 instead. But that's because that's the game that has Ferritor in it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the MK community seems to like, at least now, a lot of the old heads really like 9. A lot of newer guys like X. I that's the dichotomy in the community, definitely. But I was a 9 guy because that's what I really love. 9. I like the X too, though. So
yeah, I mean, like
either one.
100%. If X had never come out, it would be 9 all the way. You know what I mean? Me and my buddies played 9 like a lot. Coming up with ridiculous combos and stuff, and it's just like, bro, how could you even do that? But like 10, I mean X, I really like. Man, Ferritor, I was like, bro, like this is my character, bro. Like this is my character. Right. So you know.
Dude, when I saw this is a aside. When I saw Kodokan, I finally get to talk about Mortal Kombat. When I saw Kodokan in the first MK trailer, I knew he was my character. I didn't need to know nothing about his moveset. Like, that's my guy. And Trell Rexo Max can tell you that's who I played. I played the dog crap out of Kodokan on your knees. Yes, sir. Lying. That's my guy.
He is not lying.
They hold him in MK11 though. I'm sorry. They hold him in that game. Not He's pretty good now, but in the story they hold him.
Oh,
I can see why they put MK9 on here, because I'm not gonna lie, on this podcast before I've been honest and said I was not an MK person. But when MK9 came out though. But when MK9 came out though,
it was different,
bro. That was a different story, bro. When MK9 came out, like none of us were even playing MK, but when MK9, the whole house was playing MK. Like I'm telling you.
Oh, one thing I want to say about this list real quick is I think like all of you are going to know exactly what I'm about to say. I'm so happy that Street Fighter 2 Turbo isn't on here. I'm glad they made the right choice and did not put that dumpster fire on this list. Could you imagine, dude? I'd have flipped out. If we had looked at the list and it said Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the in the number 1 spot, I'd have flipped out. I've been like, bro, I can't do it.
I got a question, like a short question for both of y'all as a part of that. Would y'all have felt okay if they had put like Street Fighter 4 instead of Third Strike? Or you feel like, to you, the legacy of Street Fighter 3 is bigger? Because 4 has a legacy now too. We're in the era we can go back and like 4 has a legacy now too.
That's
a pretty big legacy as well.
I would say.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What are you about to say?
So that's one of the points that I was going to bring up when I went through the list. Because I was like, if we're talking like, one of the things you guys said might have been the criteria is like impact and things like that. Like when Street Fighter 3 came out, it's like y'all was saying before, like people didn't like it, and it's just like progressively over time this has happened. But from the time 4 came out it kind of waned off in the end. People was kind of like, how they do with most games, just towards the end, it's like, get this up out of here. But like 4, I mean, it saved the FGC.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about like impact, I mean, I could see you switching out Third Strike with 4. I could see you switching out Third Strike with, I ain't gonna say it because he might, call me.
Yeah, don't you dare. Don't you dare. Let's move on, sir.
He is well known. Rex on Max is well known audience to prefer Alpha 3 above all other Street Fighters.
Yeah, but bro, to me, Alpha 3 is the best Street Fighter they ever made. Like they ever made, So I mean, for me personally, yeah, you could put Alpha 3 up there, but I'll be realistic. Some people just really aren't that big of fans of the Alpha series. I don't know why. Maybe they was just dropped on the side of their brain that develops taste when they were younger. I don't know. Maybe their mom just had Butterfingers. But that ain't none of my business.
Oh God.
But yeah, so you could definitely put Alpha 3 up there, and I would tell IGN they know what they're doing.
Right.
But yeah, so you could definitely put Street Fighter 4 up there, looking back on it and what it did for the community and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that 4 would be a good replacement for Third Strike if you weren't going to put it up there. But yeah, if we're going to talk about best fighting games, yeah, I would say that's a good solid pick for number 1. Yeah,
He likes Third Strike.
Yeah. You know what? And now I'm going to be super biased right now. Again, though I haven't been biased this whole time. But like, would be a really good game to put on here that really gets no love whatsoever. It's Tatsunoko versus Capcom. That game gets no love whatsoever, and that game is so good. It was so fun, and like it was just kind of like it came. The problem with one of the big problems I think was got like no exposure, absolutely at all. Like how you, and not to say that the Wii is like a small potatoes console. It was like it was probably the most popular console of its generation. But but the thing about it is that how many people that own Wiis are going to play Capcom versus Tatsunoko? Like how many people, like, is your console known for sponsoring fighting games like that on there? Not really. Like, what other fighting games you have? Like Castlevania Judgment. I like Castlevania Judgment, but I gotta be realistic. That game wasn't good. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good. It's like one of the only fighting games that I can think of when I think, oh, what's a fighting game on the Wii? There are probably all other ports and stuff. Most of the other fighting games that you find on the Wii were on other consoles first. It wasn't like, oh yeah, the Wii is the first console this is on. This is like a Wii exclusive, and then maybe like it's a time exclusive and it goes elsewhere. These are all ports from other consoles, games that are either already come out in previous generations or came out current gen on some other console. So, I don't know, but for Tatsunoko versus Capcom, I think that's a really great game. I don't know if I would call it one of the top 10 best fighting games, but in my heart, I would want it to be on this list. Yeah, man, that's pretty much it for me. I think like Dragon Ball FighterZ. Wait a minute. Nah, man, Dragon Ball FighterZ. I don't know if that should be best.
In my opinion.
What'd you say?
I'll wait for it's my turn.
What did you say?
I said I don't think Dragon Ball FighterZ should be on here myself, but
Oh, really? You don't think explain?
I mean, it's just. I mean, if we put it up there, it'd be basically only because it's a Dragon Ball. It's finally like that Dragon Ball game that we always wanted. But if we talking about like impact and stuff like that, that was humongous because it was Dragon Ball. It was Dragon Ball. But when I sit back and I think of like games that are like the best fighting games of all time, I go back and look at something that's kind of like set in stone already that we can like look back and just be like, okay, in its lifespan, this is what it did and this is how it affected culture thereon after. Or it's just a game that's just so it might have came out like recently, but it was just so like human, like when Multiverse, not saying this is you should say this as a fighting game, but if Multiverses does what it's seeming like it's about to do, like 10 million people are playing it already before it even like officially drops. If that trajectory keeps going, like you probably are gonna have to real soon, like put it up there like second best platform game, like fighting game of all time, or a conversation like within like a 2 years or something. If it keeps that trajectory going, you probably gonna be sitting there looking like, was it doing just as much as Ultimate was doing, especially with the money behind it? Because Nintendo is just really starting to do their circuit, with Panda Global.
Mhm.
So, but if WB keeps on putting money behind this game and stuff like that, and doing it like real, like within 2 years, if this keeps going, we gonna be like, man, look, just from what WB did, I mean, we might have to talk about it. you know. Go ahead, King.
Conversation. I was thinking like I don't think DBZ might be the best fighting game of all time, but I think what it did for its time was like carry the torch that MVC3 had and kind of carry that torch into the new era that Infinite couldn't because it just didn't
Yeah.
get that same
Oh,
fan
yeah.
base, didn't get the same popularity. And it
Yeah.
kind of carried the torch for that style of fighting game to continue until the next big MVC comes up. It's kind of like the interim holding game to keep
Yeah.
the FGC together, that type of game together until we get another MVC. So, I mean, I guess it served that purpose. They did serve a purpose in this time for that.
Yeah, so and that's my thing. Like, I don't think nobody can say like Dragon Ball Fighters was a game that, as far as like a fighting game in itself, did something so groundbreaking. I think it was just more so like we've been finally waiting for a legit fighting game, Dragon Ball Z game that we can like legit carry on in the FGC. Because we had Budokai and Tekkaichi and all that, but that's still an arena fighter. Well, Budokai technically wasn't, but Tekkaichi was a arena fighter.
Definitely was an arena fighter.
Yeah,
It definitely was.
yeah.
I will say this
Budokai.
though:
Go ahead.
if the FGC had got into Budokai, but got in there right with him, I love Budokai 3.
Budokai's pretty good.
I played the crap on that game, boy. I would have been.
Yeah.
I'm in here, controller. I'm competing. Let's
Yeah.
go.
I
Put me
feel
on
that.
rack.
With that love like that, I mean, the love we have for the Budokai series, Budokai 3, I don't think Fighters has that yet. I think Fighters was just like we finally got a legit one that we was kind of looking for in that fighting game realm that the fighting game community messes with.
It's like if you're homeless and like some place opens up and they say, yo, all you homeless guys can come in here. It's like, oh man, we finally have a place to go. That's Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yeah, so if you want to put it in the top 10 fighting games of all time, I think it's just because of that. Like, we finally got what we wanted in the Dragon Ball Z game. Because I mean, we're at a point now with this game. Some people are saying, "I want two. I'm tired of this. Let's go on to the next one."
I mean, it has been supported. It's supported one day. One topic, maybe not this podcast will maybe going on, but one day we talk about, man, these fighting games get supported a long time, and like how that's affecting like the next game, how sequels work, the future of fighting games. Like, if you support a game for 5-6 years, they ain't gonna have no sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tekken, man, they hold on to a game for forever. But man, if going through this list just for me personally, I'll do this quick because we passed an hour. But Third Strike, I mean, it's it's as one. I mean, it's debatable to what Street Fighter you want to put up there. If you want to put up the one that should not be named, you could put that one up there. If you want to put 4 up there, it could be up there. If you want to put Third Strike up there, it could be up there. I mean, it's just it's just your personal preference when it comes to the Street Fighter games, because I mean all of them were the bomb. Guilty Gear Stripe, no, it should not be 2. I mean, I get that it was like one of the biggest games in the pandemic because it came out with rollback. It gave us something to do. It was just like, look, like we've been out here stuck at home. All we got is UMVC 3, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5,
Grand Blue,
Tekken 7, Grand Blue, everything with Samurai Showdown with trash netcode.
I like Grand Blue, but that netcode was garbage.
Yeah, and then Guilty Gear Strive. And one thing we didn't talk about Evo was the announcements, man. But anyway, yeah, Guilty Gear Strive. I understand like it fed the masses when we was stuck in the pandemic, but no.
Nope.
Tekken 7. Now, for me personally, when it comes to like Tekken games, like yeah, 3. I was like, I'm thinking people would
Just
say like
3.
3 or 5 would be their favorite
I
one. I think
get why 7 is though,
yeah,
because it's like that was the one where the fighting game community for Tekken specifically just blew up, like
yeah,
Yeah.
exploded. Like this is the. I remember back in the day, man, people just weren't really watching Tekken like that. People, I mean, they had a stigma like around Tekken 6. I don't know if it was Tekken 5 or Tekken 6. There's a little bit of a stigma of it being boring to watch. I remember seeing that like in YouTube videos and comments and stuff. I didn't agree with it. People thought it was boring to watch. And then
Yeah.
when like 7 came out, it's like that changed. And then
Yeah.
kind of like grew in a trajectory after that.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's because of all the glitz and glamour. We added like rage arts and rage drives and all that good stuff. So
You know, I would definitely put a Tekken game, one of the Tekken games, in the top 5 to 3. We gonna go with 3.
Just 3. That
Yeah,
was
3.
monumental, bro.
I would say
Uh,
5, yo.
I respect
yeah,
5.
that's why I was like, it's either 3 or 5. But I would put either one of those in the top 5 for me personally. Just because when you think of fighting games, I mean, when you think of top 5, there's a Capcom game that's going to be in there. MK game has to be in there. A Tekken game has to be in there. One of the Versus series has to be in there.
Yeah.
You know, so just out of respect for the franchise, what they've done, holding it down for all these years. So it's just something you got to do. I mean, Tekken is the 3D king, basically. I mean, we just have to give it that, and being in the top 5. Now, what I put at 3, I mean, you know, most people would probably call me a Capcom head, and you'd be right, because I can't help that when I was growing up, they just had Capcom games all there. I can't help it. I mean, that's what they had, bro. My first fighting game was Street Fighter Alpha 2. I can't help it.
Fair enough.
So, King of Fighters 13. Now, I'm not, well, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, get it out. Oh, we already discussed that. Leave.
Yeah,
Find somewhere else to stay.
definitely.
King of Fighters 13. I'm not gonna lie, like King of Fighters 13 was hype to watch. It was beautiful. That draws you in even more. We wish that they would come back with a game that looked like that, but apparently it broke them in half, physically, mentally, and financially. So, so it probably ain't gonna come back. But all they put in together for that game was amazing. Like I enjoyed watching King of Fighters 13. You know, and it's just legendary status within the community for its trials. Just its
Yeah,
trials.
that's true.
So, you know, it's holding weight. Would I pick that King of Fighters over everyone? I mean, I'm really not that familiar with the SNK franchise like that. So I'll leave that to somebody like MC Amazing.
2003.
UMVC 3. Now this is a toss up in the community. You got UMVC 3 or UMVC 2. People go back and forth with those, like which
you're
one
gonna
to
pick one.
put in there. Yeah, like you can only pick one. Is it gonna be 2 or is it gonna be 3? Now for me, I'm gonna pick 3 because those days of Street Fighter 4 and UMVC 3 when they was running tournaments, and you know every night was gonna end with the 2 of them going last. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. Now I understand the OGs with UMVC 2. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like UMV 2 has more of a iconic, legendary, solidified like status within the community. It feels like it's just one of those it has that grandfather respect, you know, when you talk about it in the community. Yeah, so me personally, I put 3 because I didn't really come in on that 2 wave.
Mhm.
But 2 just, I mean, you got to give it its respect. It seemed like one of those games if you went up and on Twitter and just ignorantly just was like, you know what, I want to get canceled today. All you have to do is say, you know what, UMVC 2 wasn't even that good, and then you'd be wiped off the face of the internet. Killer Instinct. I mean, now I was somebody who played the mess out of Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo. The mess out of it. Cinder had one of the easiest fatalities to learn.
Oh God, yes.
I
Yeah.
did it by accident when I was a kid.
Yeah,
Literally by accident.
Just keep them out. Yeah, so I played the mess out of that one. Played the mess out of Killer Instinct Gold on the N64. So Killer Instinct definitely has a place in my heart. I played it more than MK, just being honest. So for me personally, like my personal list, not like a list that, you know, we talking about legit who's the biggest. I would probably put Killer Instinct higher than MK for me, because I played it more. Virtual Fighter 5, I don't know nothing about it. The most I know about it is what Mr. Gamer Lift tells me, and he tells
I
me.
know it's pretty popular in Japan. Like, it was really popular in Japan because they kept them Virtual Fighter 5 tournaments going on for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
They love that game over there. Now over here,
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those games don't nobody like rap on besides, Mr. Game and Lift. People I respect it. Like, yeah, everybody has their games that they like. Now, this is the one I want to get to. Scoregirls at 9. Now, shout outs to the Purple Sharpie. She probably go hear this, and everybody in the fighting game community. But when I say this, I'm gonna say this as somebody like I'm ignorant. You know what I'm saying? The first time I heard about Scoregirls was when my friends was playing it in college, and I was like, okay, that looks like a cool game. I respect the indie grind and stuff like that. But and then I respect that the grind that the community has put. Now I will agree, like y'all said, like the love and the grind to keep this game alive all the way until they got it to Evo. Then Evo was canceled. Then they was like, bump that, we gonna keep grinding until they put it back at Evo. When Evo come back, is amazing. And one of the best, well, probably, arguably the best fighting game player right now in the world is main in that game. So but I want to know, do people really feel like Skullgirls belongs in the top 10 fighting games of all time? Because when I hear it, I just feel like it doesn't. I'm gonna be honest. For me, now maybe that might be history ignorance, but if we're talking about top 10 fighting games of all time and the impact that it's had on the FGC, now I can understand if you make a top 10 list that you have certain criteria like, look, we got to put an indie game in here somewhere. Like, just out of respect for indie games, one has to be in there. I could understand putting in Skullgirls, but if I took out Gear to Gear Strive, Skullgirls, and Virtual Fighter, like I can name probably 3 other fighting games that I feel like belongs in there. If we just talking about like best fighting games. Now somebody, I'm gonna actually put this up as a clip on Twitter, so hopefully I don't get dragged. But somebody teach me, does Skullgirls belong in the top 10 fighting games of all time? Because for me, when I hear top 10 fighting games of all time and somebody say Skullgirls, I'm like, why? Why do you feel like that? Because it just doesn't sound right to me. And Mortal Kombat 2011, yes, I'd put it in there. Personally, for me.
Man,
it was an amazing game.
I had so much fun playing that game.
It was an amazing
game. If
the
online was good, it'd have been a bet. That's my favorite game ever. But it didn't have good online, unfortunately.
Bro, what if Ed Boon was just like, you know what, MK13 further off when we thought we just go do MK9 with rollback.
Boy, you and my Shane Son combos, they could be crispy. I'm gonna be dropping nothing. Skulls is flat.
Bro, King probably gonna be the next Evo champ.
Man, I ain't gonna say all that, but man, I would love if they did like a remaster. Yes. Anyway.
Yeah, that game was a good game. Like that game was gaming, as Mr. Game would probably say. Yeah, man, that's it for me. I mean, I had to go down. I know some people probably go, behead me for this, but it be like that sometimes. Sometimes you get beheaded for your fighting game opinions. I really want to know, man. Do people really think Skullgirls is a top 10 game of all time? Matter of fact, I messaged somebody and he messaged me back and I asked him, was Skullgirls a top 10 fighting game of all time? Go put his name out there because I don't know if he want to be. I don't know his thing and I don't know if he want to be dragged, but he said, I asked him, you agree Skullgirls a top 10 fighting game of all time? He says he did the always has been meme with the astronauts. He said that game is easily the best game for the last decade. Everything has been playing catch up, and finally things are catching up. So that's his opinion on it.
Oh wow!